Well, so it's one of those things where it's extremely basic, and most people will be like, okay, bro, I already know all this stuff. Well, you do and you don't. You probably know the basics. You might even know some more obscure information about the various parts of the human being, but do you know how they're all slotted into history, how their evolution comes across various epochs of cosmic history, and so forth? Because a fact isn't just a fact, it doesn't just stand alone, it's woven into your knowledge of other things. And so the more you know about this, the more you therefore also know about this, which in turn means you know more about this. Cold facts kind of illuminate each other in a very interesting way, which you just simply experience directly when you get enough of them. And so therefore, like, again, a fact is not just a fact, it's really just like a group, an implication that resolves into a fact depending on the context. It makes sense. You'll see eventually. Um, but yeah, so classic. Start with the physical body, right? Associated element is earth, obviously. It's the part of you that is extruded out onto the physical plane, and it's the part that most people refer to as I, because this is what you identify with in a casually, like a naive way. And of course, the whole point of earthly incarnation is to do this. Then we can add some other stuff back on top, but this whole situation of the physical body is actually like our physical body is the oldest part of us. Even before we had souls or life or whatever, we were essentially an extremely complicated physical entity made of fire. Although it was like a fire mineral because Earth didn't exist at the time, but it's sort of like it would be mechanical. It's not really quite mechanical in the modern sense because again these are heat structures, so it's like the technology is driven purely by will. There's no like mechanical gap. It's all directly willed, but still like there's human beings were merely some kind of extremely complicated physical mechanism back at that time. The physical body is extremely old. It's been around the longest. It goes back 1, 2, 3 epochs to what is known generally as Saturn in this system. A planet made of pure fire would be the third previous incarnation of the Earth. And the last one that you can go back to with any reference to physical anything. If you go back further than Saturn, I don't know, it's out of my grade anyway. You can go there, but it's like if you're not already an initiate, nothing that you learn is going to make sense. You've kind of already got to be there. Yeah, that's not me. So that's the physical body, and so it is at a high level of perfection because it's been around for so many kalpas, right? Which is why you can do things like smoke or drink coffee or whatever your whole life, just poison yourself, and sometimes you're just fine, and sometimes you're not, but that's more of a karma thing. The physical body is incredible, and obviously, the fact that it actually can harbor higher entities such as the etheric body, the astral body, and stuff is even more to its credit, as you can see, because the physical body of the human is the only body that's able to harbor the I, the highest spiritual entity, part of the human currently. And it's what separates us from animals. We won't get into that right now. But again, so it's like when you learn about the parts of the human being, you then also have a point of reference to understand why the other kingdoms of nature are different. So again, like a fact is not just a fact. It illuminates horizontally and vertically sometimes. So the etheric body, the body of life, right? So there's matter, which just decays. We know that. We see that physical matter, non-living matter, just deteriorates. It's mechanistic. It has to be upkept by exterior effort or it just decays. Mechanisms run down without input force. Life is not like that. Life is actually pretty much the opposite of that. Life maintains its integrity. It grows, it expands, it replicates. It's kind of like the anti-pure matter. So in a certain sense, you can think of life and matter as opposites, but of course, they're also complementary. There's a synthesis that is achieved in plants, for example, because the plant is a perfect example of the entity that has a physical body and an etheric body here on the physical plane, but everything else is not in it, not in the body itself, but like around it, right? So the etheric body is what allows you to be alive on the physical plane. It allows a physical body to live, and of course that life is then what allows it to harbor more bodies. It's a very interesting kind of nesting doll type situation. The physical body is what can harbor the etheric body, and thanks to being alive, you can then harbor soul activity, right? And then thanks to soul activity, you can harbor eye activity. It's all very neat, as you would expect. So the life body, right? That's the next part of the human being. It came the next epoch over, which is generally known as the Sun epoch. This is when they brought back the humans. I can't go into all this history now, but suffice to say, the life body is a little bit younger. It's only existed for 2 previous epochs, the Sun and the Moon, before Earth now. And so it's still got a little bit more ways to go. It's not as exalted as a physical body, but it's still a pretty spectacular body. Obviously, and so much wisdom is encoded into the etheric in a different way than wisdom is physically encoded. And it's the etheric body that is actually the repository of memories and some other psychic aspects that, again, we can't really go into with this brief overview. So next is the astral body. Most people are most familiar with the astral body. People throw around astrality, what is it, right? It's what the physical body is just a substrate for experience. This whole idea that nerves are what allow one to experience something is not really, it's not yes, you need the physical body to experience, but the vessel for that experience is the astral body, is the soul. The physical body in and of itself doesn't do or feel anything, just like a rock doesn't feel anything. It doesn't have the apparatus. You need to be alive, and you need to have at least the degree of consciousness that accompanies astrality, which in this case is dream-like consciousness, in order to experience pain, pleasure, whatever. Experiencing in the body requires another finer body to be chunked up inside it, which is the astral body, which is like a heavenly type body. It's related to the stars and planets. It operates via sympathy and antipathy. It has its whole own set of laws, which obviously we won't go into right now. But yes, there is the astral body. So those are the bottom 3, and then you come up to the 4th, which would be considered the inner core. That's the I, or the ego, the thing that allows a human being to realize that they are alive, that they are conscious, that self-reflective ability. Animals don't have it. They don't. Animals basically rise to the level of dream consciousness, and they're as aware of themselves as a human could be in a dream. Basically, their mode of consciousness is, my consciousness is a product of my environment, as opposed to I myself am generating this consciousness moment to moment. So it's not like animals aren't aware, but they don't rise to that sharpness of knowing that they know. And knowing that you know is what allows human beings to think, which is a gating in of a very high spiritual ability, but it's not usually regarded that way because people are wrong-headed about how concepts and percepts work. So those are the 4 bodies that are the lower bodies. But you can divide up the human being in lots of different ways, and in fact there are higher bodies that are under development right now. Initiates already have them, advanced people, and then the rest of us are working on them right now, or will be working on them in future incarnations. So, for example, this epoch, the 5th post-Atlantean, which is not named, and I would be tempted to call it the Anglo-Saxon epoch, but I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to label it because it's you're a racist or something. It doesn't really matter what you call it anyway. People really at this point should be individually called. 5th, 6th, and 7th epochs are all slamming together, mixing together anyway. It's not clear and clean like it was before. The Greeks and the Romans were the last ones, I think, that you could really just easily be well, clearly these people are in the center of history. Now it's kind of all over the place. I mean, obviously the West is huge right now, but it's not a concerted effort. It's not infighting. Higher faculties are the spiritual faculties. I won't get into those right now, especially because, practically speaking, those especially need more of a background in history to understand the context, because we're talking about something that, you don't know what it is. People don't talk about it. What is spirit self? Hell, what is the consciousness soul? What is intellectual soul? Because you can divide the human soul into 3 parts. And those parts were worked on in different eras, and one of them is being worked on right now. And each of them has like a special purpose and evolution. And particularly this consciousness soul is the seed of the spirit self, which is our first like level of regained clairvoyance, I guess you could say, after the fall, which we should all be working on like right now, but history is really lagging behind, and there's a lot of suppression and nonsense. It's keeping people back, but it's coming to an end. If not now, then soon, and if not soon, then later, because I don't know if I got the memo, but Christ is risen, and so victory is inevitable, but not necessarily easy or simple, right? Thanks, my friends.